Hello friends, and welcome to the dream. The video. So is the world a dream? Somebody said to this, somebody put a comment recently in a direct path video saying the direct path says that everything's just a dream. And my friend actually said this to me this week. She said, James, you just think the world's a dream. Now, I don't. The dream's an analogy. It's taking something from our experience in order to teach us something, like a book, in our experience, teach us something. A really nice film, you might learn something from it. It's not the reality. It has its limitations. We use the dream analogy. It's really great for getting past certain blocks, but it's like as if we were navigating the sea. You set course, you go so far, and then periodically you have to take your bearings and adjust course so that you get to where you want to go to. You might have to do it a few times. I don't really know about sailing. I'm just imagining that. I think that is what happens. Now, this dream analogy is used by Adi Shankaracharya in the Dakshinamurti Stotram, and he also uses another beautiful analogy, which is the world is like a city seen in a mirror. And the problem with that analogy, as beautiful as it is that, well, in a mirror, if you ever see a city in a mirror, the city's behind you. So it fails in certain ways. Now we have computer screens, so you could say the world is like a city seen in a computer screen, and that would actually fit better. But the mirror fails to some degree, and the dream does too. The dream is great for showing us that even though we experience duality, it's not necessarily the case. We all have dreams. We all know that it's just us in it. It's kind of made up of us. It's made up of our consciousness. When you touch something, you feel something in a dream. It's not that the senses moving up the nerves in your arm and to your brain. And when you see something, you see an apple with the sunlight shining on it. It's not that the light is hitting the apple and then it's traveling through space and hitting your eye, going down your optic nerve, etc. It's known directly. It's kind of known because you are everything. You are, in some ways, you are the apple. It's known from the inside, and not only from the inside of the apple, but it's known from the whole. So it's really great analogy. But the problem with it is that we start thinking that the world's a dream, the world's false then. And in Advaita, the world isn't completely false. It's seen as mithya, it's dependent. So it's not false like a square circle. It's also not completely true like Brahman. It's dependently real. So it's seen as an illusion. You see there's another analogy of the snake and the rope. You look at on the ground, and there is a rope, and you mistake it for a snake. It's not really a snake. It's a rope, but it just looks like that. And in the dream, there's not really subject and object there. It just looks like that. So it helps us, it teaches us, but it has its limitations. We start thinking that, well, what's outside of consciousness is everything's consciousness. I do see that everything is arising in consciousness. I've done my direct path work, I clearly see. But what's outside consciousness then? And you start thinking that consciousness is a container. You could say, materialism could be true. It could be all this. It's just a copy of what's outside. Who knows? It could be a simulation, computer game. It could be the Matrix. It could be a brain in a vat. The way we can get past that, the way we can kind of trim our sails and redirect our little boat is by seeing what Advaita actually teaches. It doesn't really teach that Brahman or the ultimate reality is chit, is consciousness. It says it's sat-chit-ananda, is unlimited, limitless existence consciousness. So And when we see it from the point of view of existence, it really helps. So what's outside existence then? It doesn't have the same problem where, well, what's outside consciousness? What's outside existence? Well, if it were something outside existence, it wouldn't exist. So there you go. And I'm using existence and being as synonyms. Let's not get into the talk about the etymology, and I'm just using them as synonyms. Something that doesn't that is outside existence doesn't exist. So there is no outside of existence. Of course, yes, we could call it being if you prefer, and then the mystics say God is beyond being and non-being, but really we're getting into, yes, beyond human concepts. So there can be nothing outside of Brahman. That's the idea. Now, when we think of objects, we often think of existence as being an attribute. So, for example, the chair, well, there's a chair and it's wooden and it exists, and there's a cup and it's ceramic and it exists, but it doesn't work like that. It can't really be an attribute, because if the chair didn't have that attribute, it just wouldn't exist. And the cup too. So it's better to see it more like the sea in which everything arises. Everything arises in this sea of existence. And we have analogies along those lines. We have the sea, the water and the wave. We have the gold and the ornaments. But then they have the limitations, because immediately we've turned Brahman, we've turned this ultimate reality into a substance that's out there. And then we're kind of back into materialism under another name. The teaching, again, we'll go back to the teaching, we adjust our sails and readjust our course so we don't go off and, off the edge of the earth. The teaching is that Atman is Brahman. It's not a substance out there that is Brahman. You are Brahman. It's your existence that is existence. The existence of everything is your existence. It's your presence, this conscious existence that makes everything that makes everything present. It's not that there are two parts, two aspects. It's just two ways of seeing the same thing. That is one reality that it's trying to describe, is existence consciousness. But even this, then we start thinking, well, okay, if Atman is Brahman, if it's just my existence in my consciousness, then it's solipsism, isn't it? Everything else just exists in my mind. Now, seeing the ultimate reality as being, or the self, if you prefer, as being existence, does actually help get past solipsism to some degree, because when we say it's in consciousness, yes, consciousness might be a container, and maybe people don't have interior lives. It's only me inside, everything's inside my mind, created by me. It's all dependent on James. It's my dream that's going on. But we're not saying that either. We're saying that your mind arises in awareness. The body arises in awareness. Everyone else's minds arise in awareness. The concept of public and private arises in awareness. Interior and exterior, subject and object. And just like with a dream, it just looks like that. The subject and object of the dream, it's not really the case. It just looks like that. So solipsism is the idea that, yeah, it's all in my mind, but even the minds just arise in awareness. And seeing the self as being existence itself helps us get past that to some degree. Now, somebody did say, that they challenged me on this idea. So I was saying something along these lines, that things are dependent on our existence. They are
dependently real. It's not like they're completely unreal. They're mithya. They are. It's not like a square circle. It's the world is dependent on you. It's like an apple. You see an apple, and if you weren't there, the apple wouldn't be there. But if the apple wasn't there, you would still be here. So the apple depends on you. You don't depend on the apple. And somebody said, when there is no object, there's no subject either. That all awareness has this intentionality that it must be aware of something. And Shankaracharya challenges this. He says that this is not the case, that Brahman is swaprakasha, so it's self-luminous. It doesn't need an object. We have the idea of a comet flying through space, and there's all this light before the comet was there, in space, and you can't see the light, but when a comet passes through, you see it. So it's the experience that needs these objects. But then even the object is arising in awareness. It's kind of made of awareness. So it's swaprakasha. It's self-luminous. And to describe this, he uses the idea of, he talks about the deep sleep state. So in deep sleep, it's objectless awareness. There are no objects, and yet you still exist. You wake up and there you are again. You didn't pop out of existence. It's an awareness of absence rather than absence of awareness. That's the idea. And even before we had brain scans, we knew we had deep sleep. So somehow we knew that there was some gap there. Now, is this what Brahman is like? Is this what the reality is like? Is it like deep sleep? Is it just this really boring? It's quite terrifying to think of it like that. But no, that is also a state. The waking state, the dream state, and deep sleep state are arising in awareness. I think I've repeated that too many times, but they are objects. The deep sleep state is actually seen as a seed state. So everything kind of gets packed in there and it's all unpacked again when you wake up in the morning. It's a bit like you did a watercolor painting of a horse, and on top you did a painting of a building, on top you did a painting of some people. Eventually it'll just be all black. And that's an analogy, by the way. So the deep sleep state, is that what you're really like? Is that our truth? No, because the deep sleep state comes and goes. Anything that comes and goes cannot be the ultimate reality. It needs to always be present. And the only thing that's always present is existence, is you, is Atman, is Brahman. Now, we have this, we see this in the Mandukya Upanishad, the Mandukya Karika. In the 7th verse, it says that Turiya, and it's talking about Brahman here, Turiya, it's the 4th state, but it's not really a state. It goes into that. Only stupid people know it as a state, I think it says. So it's not inward looking. It's not outward looking. It's not inward mind. I can't remember the word it uses. Cognizance, maybe. But it's not like the inward would be the dream world. It's not outward thoughts. It's not outward cognizance. It's not the world out there, the waking state. And it's not both. And it's not a massive consciousness. So it's this idea of deep sleep. It is Shantam Shivam Advaitam. It's peace itself, it's auspicious, and it is non-dual. It is the Atman, it is the self. And it says, and this is what is to be realized. This is what is to be understood. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.